Lies and Red Tape. It's an economic analysis by Dawie Roodt. His book challenges most of what has been established as conventional truths. According to him, job creation is a bad idea, and South Africa's problem is not poverty. Dawie Roodt is in studio with us. He is an economist, and of course he is a director at the Efficient Group. Dawie, good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you, and good morning.
All right, so let's get to the bottom of this. You do not believe that poverty is the problem, and you don't think that job creation is a good idea.
Silly idea to try to create jobs. What we need to do in South Africa is we need to grow the economy, and jobs will follow. Get 1,000 guys to dig 1,000 holes and get another 1,000 to fill it up, and you've got 2,000 jobs, but that's clearly not sustainable. What we need is economic growth, and the result of economic growth will be job creation. Poverty is not a problem in South Africa, most definitely not. The problem in South Africa is we do not have enough wealthy people. So we've got a shortage of wealth. And what can we do to create an environment where we can create more wealth, have more wealthy people? And poverty is not the issue. And
that is what you talk about in the book.
That's what I'm talking about.
I love this. You said that Jeremy Cronin called you I have to read this, an unreconstructed neoliberal fundamentalist, and this inspired you to write the book.
Absolutely. Now in South Africa we've got plenty of economic plans. I mean there are a long list of plans. Every now and again there's a new economic plan, and I can go back in history. We've got plenty of economic plans, and once we got one of these new economic plans, and I criticized one of these new economic plans a little while ago, and then Jeremy Cronin of course is our second comrade. He's second in charge of the South African Communist Party, which is a totally silly idea, communism by the way, and I touch on that in the book as well. And then after criticizing one of these plans, Jeremy Cronin called me an unreconstructed neoliberal fundamentalist. Actually he called me a hysterical one. So but I thought that is absolutely an amazing title for a book. So, but it's far too long, so I had that as a subtitle. The title, Tax, Lies and Red Tape, is much shorter, but I mean, come on, don't you think Confessions of an Unreconstructed Neoliberal Fundamentalist sounds just wonderful?
It's fantastic. It's a nice title. Well done on getting that. So from being a financial magazine economics editor to owning your own listed company, I mean, it's quite a transition, and you really sort of went ahead in your career and sort of made it happen for yourself.
Well, I think I had the opportunities, but I think what one needs in life is self-confidence. If you do not have self-confidence, there's a very good answer to that. You simply have to fake it. I think what you need to do is just try stuff, and you will be surprised how successful you will be quite often. Like presenting a TV program. I mean, the first time you did that, it was very, very difficult.
Of course.
So my advice to people is do difficult stuff. Do stuff that is you're not supposed to be doing, and you'll be surprised how successful you quite often will be on those sort of things. So I tried things. A lot of things didn't work. I got fired now and again.
I believe so. JP Landman, in fact.
JP Landman fired me as well. He was my boss. And I think part of the reason why he fired me is because I was doing too many things. I think I did a fairly good job while I was working for him, but I was really involved in far too many things. And I think he was not too happy with me having too many jobs.
Well, talk about all the jobs you've had. I mean, you've worked at the Reserve Bank as well. And at the same time, at this point, you're actually questioning having a central bank in the country.
Well, that is a bit of something I need to think about. I think the reality is that we've had central banks, and central banks are not that old, by the way. They're probably, the South African central bank is about 100 years old, actually less than 100 years. The Federal Reserve in the United States is less than 100 years old. We don't really need central banks. We have to understand this. We've gone along, we've been around, and we had quite successful economies without central banks. And in fact, there's all sorts of new currencies coming to the fore, like for example Bitcoin. And I will not be surprised if in future we see an economic environment without central banks. What is happening in the Federal Reserve in the United States and America at the moment is that they're trying to print wealth. You cannot print wealth, and they're going to pay a very dear price with their current macroeconomic monetary policy experiments that they're trying in the United States. But at the moment we have central banks, and we have to deal with that. And one of the ways of dealing with central banks is to make sure that central banks make sure that our currency, in the case of South Africa, maintains its value. Inflation is a seriously bad thing. Inflation is bad for, it distorts all sort of prices in the economy, it undermines economic growth, and it's particularly bad for the poor. So since we have this institution called the central bank, let's make sure it works properly, but in future we're probably not going to have central banks anymore.
Sure, interesting. What's also quite sort of fun in your book is the way that you trace the history of the economics of humankind, going back to when we were nomads, actually.
You know, let me start off with this. Economics is not about markets and exchange rates and all sort of funny graphs and things. Economics is really about people. And that's what economists forget quite often. To think in economic terms, to think about people and not about graphs and things. If you understand why people do certain things, then you understand economics.
Yeah.
And all decisions, let me repeat this, all decisions are always economic decisions. Your decision of who you want to get married to as an economic decision. Apart from the farm, I mean, it's an exchange of love. It's a transaction, actually.
Yeah.
So all decisions and all happenings and events are actually economic developments and events. Like standing upright for the first time, we've got 2 extra tools, our hands. Starting eating meat, for example, high energy food like meat, resulted in us having more time to invent the wheel and fire. Cows will never invent the wheel. They eat the whole day. They don't have time. And what's so interesting for me in our evolution, our economic evolution, is that there's like a golden thread that becomes more and more important as we evolve and become what we are today. And that golden thread is called private property rights.
Yeah.
And private property rights, as far as I'm concerned, is the pinnacle of civilization. Sure. It was not important to have private property rights when we were hunter-gatherers, because we did not have any private property rights. And that's why Karl Marx is so very, very wrong, because he's taking a total detour and swerving off somewhere in total darkness with his idea that private property rights do not exist. And the real danger about communists, especially in South Africa, is that, and I've studied communism, and I think I understand communism, and I've read all that silly literature about communism. The communists in South Africa are really dangerous because they don't even understand their own ideology.
Sure. Okay, Dawie. I see that we've just got another minute. I've got another minute, so I can ask you this last question. You make predictions about the future of South Africa as well. You say all is not lost, but the picture is not that rosy.
It's not.
Which worries me a bit.
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about we're swerving to the left. The state is getting bigger and bigger, and the single biggest threat to the South African economy is a civil service that's collapsing on its own weight and its own incompetence. It's like having a wet blanket and take this blanket and throw it over the fire of entrepreneurship, of economic growth. The state is smothering us. The state is there to support us, to serve us, and to make our lives easier. They're not doing that. They're there for them. The politicians are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Look at that parasitic institution, South African Airways. Look at Centre. Look at so many other institutions. The state is not doing, it's not supporting the South African economy. Set the private sector free, and you will be amazed about the energy and the wonderful things and the wealth creation and poverty alleviation and the end job creation that will happen with a free economy.
Dawie Roodt, Tax, Lies and Red Tape, bookstores around the country, already been on shelves for 3 months. I think over 5,000 copies have been sold. So if you want your copy, best you go out there and read all about Dawie's thoughts. Dawie Roodt, always nice chatting to you. Thanks so much for being our guest.